The Lost Bus, a story about missed chances and new beginnings. Motivational story, Zen motivational video. Sometimes in life, we miss the bus, not just the real one on the street, but the bus of opportunities, relationships, or dreams. A missed bus can feel like the end, but sometimes it is only the beginning of a different journey. Today's story will remind us that even if you miss the bus, life still gives you another road to walk on. In a quiet town in Pennsylvania, there lived a man named Harold. He was 65, a retired mail carrier who had spent more than 40 years walking the same streets, delivering letters and greeting neighbors. People in town admired his consistency. He never rushed, never lost his temper, and always greeted people with a gentle nod. Harold was a man of routine. Breakfast was always 2 eggs and toast, coffee in the same chipped mug, and a walk around the block at exactly 7 a.m. He was predictable, steady, and safe. But deep inside, Harold carried one regret. In his 20s, he had dreamed of being a writer. He loved telling stories, scribbling ideas into notebooks, and once even sent a few pieces to local newspapers. When he was offered a small scholarship to study creative writing in a city college, he wanted to say yes, but doubts filled his mind. "I can't afford to leave. My parents need me. I'll do it later." Later became never. Instead, Harold took a job at the post office. It was supposed to be temporary, but life got busy. He married, raised children, paid bills, and walked the same streets for decades. The dream was buried under responsibility. Sometimes Harold remembered one sharp memory from his youth. He had been late for school and literally missed the morning bus. He could still see it in his mind. The roar of the engine, the spray of exhaust, the back of the bus shrinking as it drove away. That morning, he walked 3 miles in the cold, watching his breath in the air. For years, that image returned to him whenever he thought of writing. He told himself, "That's my life. The bus left, and I wasn't on it." One autumn morning, Harold sat at the town bus stop. The trees along Main Street were painted gold and crimson, and the air smelled of fallen leaves. His old friend Frank, a retired musician, came and sat beside him. Frank had spent his life traveling with a guitar, playing in small bars and weddings. He never had much money, but his eyes lit up whenever he talked about music. "Harold," Frank said, "do you remember back in '79 when you told me you wanted to write a book? What happened to that dream?" Harold sighed. "I missed that bus, Frank. It's too late now." Frank laughed gently. "You know, I've missed plenty of buses too. I once turned down a chance to play in New York because I was afraid I wasn't good enough. For years I regretted it. But you know what I learned? Another bus always comes. It may not take you to the same station, but it will take you somewhere. The real question is, when it comes, will you get on?" That night, Harold couldn't sleep. He pulled out a dusty box from his closet. Inside were yellowed notebooks filled with half-written stories. His handwriting was shaky, uneven, but alive. He began to read. The stories weren't polished, but they had heart. Tears filled his eyes. Maybe the bus hasn't gone forever, he thought. Maybe it's still waiting. The next day, Harold did something surprising. He bought a small laptop. Sitting at his kitchen table, he opened an old notebook and began typing. His fingers stumbled across the keys. His eyes grew tired quickly. But for the first time in years, he felt the spark of creation. At first, it was only a few lines each morning, then a paragraph, then a page. Slowly, writing became part of his routine. Instead of just walking at 7 a.m., he wrote after his walk. His porch became his office, birds singing as his fingers tapped the keyboard. Writing gave him a reason to wake up with excitement again. He began visiting the library more often, asking the young librarian about formatting. She skimmed his stories and said warmly, "Mr. Harold, these are beautiful. They have heart. People need stories like this." Her encouragement lit a fire. Harold pushed himself further. He rewrote old stories, started new ones, and even shared a draft with Frank. Frank strummed his guitar and said, "Harold, you've still got it." One evening, his granddaughter Emily discovered his writing. "Grandpa, did you write all of this?" she asked, amazed. Harold blushed. "Just some old stories." But Emily insisted, "These are wonderful. You should share them. We can make a blog. It's really easy." Together, they built a simple website. Harold uploaded one story every Sunday. At first, only a few people read them. But slowly, more visitors came. 10 readers turned into 50, then into hundreds. Comments appeared. "This touched my heart. This reminds me of my dad. Please don't stop writing." For Harold, every comment felt like another passenger stepping onto his bus. Soon, Harold began receiving emails from strangers across the country. A man from Ohio wrote, "Your story reminded me of my late wife. Thank you." A woman from Texas shared, "I read this to my father in the nursing home. He smiled for the first time in weeks." Harold sat at his laptop, tears streaming down his face. Words he thought were useless had become medicine for others. One spring evening, as the sky turned purple with sunset, Frank visited with his old guitar. They sat together on the porch. Frank asked, "So, Harold, did you finally get on the bus?" Harold's eyes glistened. He nodded slowly. "Yes, Frank, and it's the ride of my life." The lesson Harold learned is clear. We all miss buses in life. A job we didn't take. A person we didn't marry. A dream we abandoned. But missing one bus doesn't mean the journey is over. Life always sends another bus, maybe slower, maybe smaller, but always enough to take us where we need to go. The question is, will we have the courage to step on? For those watching, especially in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, remember, it is never too late. Age doesn't close the road. It simply changes the scenery. The Buddha said, "Every morning we are born again. What we do today is what matters most." And the Bible reminds us in Ecclesiastes 3, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. Missed chances don't mean life is over. They mean a new season is beginning. Think of life like a bus stop. Waiting can be long and uncomfortable. You may get restless, you may lose hope, but sooner or later, a bus arrives. It may not be the one you expected, but it can still carry you forward. The choice is yours. Stand still or climb aboard. So what can you do today? Start small. Write the letter you've postponed. Plant the tree you've been planning. Call the friend you've missed. Enroll in the class you thought was too late. Each action is like stepping onto the next bus. There's an old American proverb. It's never too late to be what you might have been. Harold proved it true. And so can you. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with your loved ones, and leave a comment with your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss the next story. With every video, we'll bring lessons, wisdom, and hope for a meaningful life. The more you share, the more people will receive these reminders and find light in their own journey. Thank you for watching Zen Motivational Video, where every story is a gentle reminder to live with patience, gratitude, and peace. Remember this truth: patience builds peace, gratitude builds joy, and love builds eternity. Till then, be patient, be thankful, and keep moving forward in life.